Alright, before we get going creating other pieces, there are a couple of little bits of business that we need to take care of with regards to this. And the first thing that we're going to do is create a suitable kind of base texture here. We've just got this gray color here with our bump map on there, but we want to create a passable texture here so that if we go and put all of these together and we just leave on this default color, it's at least going to work correctly. And then we'll also use that as the base point for more advanced textures when we get there. And then we're also going to create an item preset for this so that we can draw from a nice digital virtual box of toys here. So in order to get a good view of my environment, or my object rather, I'm going to put it into an environment, and then that'll let me get a better idea of how my texture is working here. So I'm also going to turn on global illumination, and just because anybody who knows me knows I can't stand hard angle shadows, so we'll put a little soft shading on there. And then last thing I'm going to do here, just kind of a setup thing to make this something that's a little cleaner, is I'm going to change my my indirect and direct multipliers here. I'm going to put my direct down to 50 and my indirect to 75, and then that's making most of my light coming from my environment, but then some of it's still coming from the key, and it's not going to overlight the scene here. All right, so let's jump in here and get the settings we want. I'm going to kind of aim for an angle here where I'll be able to see something in a reflection. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to adjust my reflection and reflection Fresnel, and then I'm going to use those values to go in and paste into my specular Fresnel and specular amount. And I'm doing that because it's easier to read the reflective values, and we typically want these to align with each other, want them to be the same, but it's usually easier to see the reflective values, so those will be the ones that we'll base off of. So for reflection amount, I'm going to start for something relatively low for the base, say 3%. And then for the Fresnel, we can go a little bit higher. So, and you can actually do this if you have some of these. I hold one up to the screen. You can kind of see as you get towards that glancing angle, you actually get a pretty decent amount of reflection. I'm going to go to about 60% on that. And actually, I think I'm going to do something. I'm going to go a little bit higher. I'm going to go 75%. But the thing that I need to do is I need to set now my reflective color and my also my specular color to be either the same or a lighter version of my diffuse amount, or no, my diffuse color rather. So right now my diffuse color is at this 50% gray, and we can try this at first and see how it's working. Oops, went a little bit too low. So let's just dial that up there to 50. You can see and make sure that we're getting, yeah, and what you want to see is, and you'll see this if you look in real life, these areas where you see some color coming through, it's getting pretty heavily knocked back by the gray. Really bright areas are still going to be pretty reflective, which is relatively accurate there. Okay, so I think that works well. And so I'm going to set these values to the same, so 3 and 75 for that. And then what we need to do is we need to also set our specular color here. So let's drag that back to 0.5 on all my values. We can kind of drag it around here and get a look at this. Now we'll have to set up other colors for transparent colors, or transparent textures, and also obviously other colors, but this will make a good base point, and that way when we save this as a preset, we're going to get something that works here. Okay, I think that's pretty good. You get some angles where the logo is pretty visible, other angles where it's going to be relatively subtle, so that's pretty accurate. Okay, so let's take this and we'll make an item preset so that we have things to draw from and we don't have to worry about constantly keeping pieces in our scene that we don't need as we go about the creative process here. So I'm going to go to items here, and I'm going to go to this mesh layer, and then I'm going to go file, save item preset, and I'm going to put this in my meshes folder. I've created a Modos folder here, and I'm going to save this as 1_1. I'm just saving that so I know it's only one block. So I do a 1×2. The next one here, we'll save it 1_2. You can obviously name these however you want, but This will make it easy for me to flip through them when I'm offline or not in Modo and know what it is that I'm looking at. So let's go ahead and save that. And now we can do this. If we open up a new scene and we go over to our Layout tab, got a little test scene there. All right, so we can see this here. We got 1_1. Double click on that, and it comes, and it's textured properly, has our logo on it. If we go over here into the shader tree, we'll see that we have an item level mask, and then that's got our color in there, our material base gray color. Now what we can also do, if we'd like, is we could start off creating the shelf for our textures here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my shader tree here, and I'm just going to right click on this and save preset. I can take out this LXL, I'm just going to call this Modos gray, and let's put this, let's go to assets, materials, make a new folder, Modos, create, and we'll drop this in there. But now when we go to this one, if we notice, let's see here, materials, our Modos, see that we get this kind of on this teapot here, which obviously doesn't give us a very good preview. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to step back over to this version here that has this nice lid. I'm going to find a nice angle on it where we can see the logo pretty well. I think I probably passed it. Oh, that works. That's pretty good there. Just want to make sure I get the whole thing in the scene there. There we go. All right, now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a square render of this. So let's go to our render here, and I'm going to change this. I'm just going to make it 512 by 512, so relatively small. And let's just go for a nice angle on it. So something like that. And then I'm just going to go ahead and render that out. Okay, and I'll save the image. And I'm actually going to put this also here in my assets folder. So I'm going to go to images, new folder, Modos, and this one I will call Modos Gray TGA. Okay, we'll close this, and then what I'm going to do here is on my Modos Gray, I'm going to right click this, and I'm going to say replace icon with image file, and let's go down, see where I put it. It's in one of these Modos files. Must be that one. There we go. And now we have, and since I saved it as a target, it'll even have the alpha channel there, so we can see a nice nice representation of our color. So now when we go through and we make these, I'm going to resave now this scene file, and I'm going to call this Modos texture ref. And I'm just going to put this one here over, put this on my desktop, into my Modos folder here that has my my work files for the tutorial. Okay, so there you go. Now I've got something that as I come back and I start creating more objects, what I'll do is I'll just open up this test file, create my materials, and then just drop them into my materials, and then I can do a quick render and add on the image file that goes with the texture. Okay, so now that we've got that ready, let's go ahead here, and I'm just going to go to this empty mesh here, and we'll go to our layout. I'm just going to double click to add one of these into the scene, and what we're going to do here is we're going to make one that's like this but twice as wide. Now there's one extra thing that we'll add in. I guess you'll see when we get there, but we'll add in, there's a little peg in the middle here when we make this twice as wide. So I'm going to hit shift up arrow until I get to the bottom, and then I'm going to go one edge extra, and this is going to be a buffer edge, and this will help us in subdivision surfaces to keep from getting distortion on the corners of these cylinders where other mesh items or other sections of the mesh that we're going to add on here will meet up with it. So with that selected, what I'm going to do is I'm going to invert the selection, and I'm going to cut that out. And now I'm going to take everything here, and I'm just going to move it over. Oops, move it over 4 millimeters. Okay. Then I'm going to mirror this. Shift V is the hotkey. I'm going to mirror that across the X. And there we go. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bridge these together to create kind of an island on both top and bottom. And to make my life easier, I'm actually going to hide the part that I'm not working with here. And let's maximize that. And my wireframes are getting a little bit tough to see on this part. So what I'm going to do, there are two things I can do to make my wireframes more visible. First is switch to uniform, but since I'm dealing with a mid-level gray, even that isn't really doing it. But what I can do is turn up my wireframe opacity, and this is a quick way to get a little bit more emphasis on your wireframes. I'm going to turn up to 30%, and that makes it a lot easier to read here. All right, so I'm going to go to Edge, the Bridge tool here, and then in my tool pipe, I'm going to right-click on Bridge, and I'm going to turn on Select Through, and that's going to allow me to make selections here, and it helps if I'm in Edge mode. There we go. And let's check, make sure I still have Select Through on. So I'm going to select one edge, two edges, three edges, and then I'll hold down Shift because I have Select Through on. I'll choose 1, 2, 3, and as soon as I release, it will make that bridge. So now I'm going to unhide my other mesh items, or my other sections of the mesh rather. And I'm going to select one. Oops, I forgot that I had a little bit of extra hanging out underneath here, and this is actually what I want though. So I'm going to select 1, 2. And be careful. Oops. Be careful you don't select anything you don't want there. So let's do 1, 2. Gosh. So what we'll do, this select through will come in more handy when we're doing more selections of these together. So let's go ahead and just turn that off. See, it's off now. So now it just goes back to, this kind of reverts to the normal bridge workflow here. So I'm going to, just like I did on the other side here, just to make my life a little bit easier, let's go ahead and hide our sections that we're not using. And I'm just going to select 1, 2, 3. And let's slide over here to the other one. And we'll get those matching ones here. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to run bridge and click. And there we go. So now we unhide the rest, and we have kind of this area blocked out for what we want to do. So now I'm going to build a box that will go around this, and I can start here just by roughing it out if I want. My height's going to be 3.2, and then I'm going to be centered at 1.6 above the ground plane so that it's sitting right on the ground plane. Then I'm going to zero out my X and my Z, and I can change this to 16 millimeters on the X, 8 millimeters on the Z. Whoops, helps if I put millimeters instead of meters. Some giant toys otherwise. Okay, and then I can drop the tool. And now I've got this this in place here, but obviously if I subdivide that, not quite what we want. So I'm going to apply my material here to everything. So let's apply our base gray to this. Okay, and now I'm going to select this way, run 2 loop slices. Select this way, run a couple of loop slices. This way, run a couple of loop slices. So basically I've gone through every edge here, and then when I subdivide that, we're ready to go. Okay, now as we go in to make the bridge from this section to the islands that are inside, we need to kind of prepare the structure here. And to do this, I'm going to unsubdivide because it'll make it a little easier to view. And I'll run loop slice. Then I'm going to do is I'm going to bring these in here relatively close together. So something about maybe I'll go in, I'll go too tight, but about 46%. That's going to leave me plenty of buffer area for each of these to run through. And then what I need is I'm going to need, just like we had done on the single piece here, I need 2 loop slices that run down the middle this way, on each of those, and then also one that runs down the middle lengthwise. Okay, so now I'm just going to grab these for now and hide them. And I'm going to grab these two, shift up arrow. Oops, make sure I give these middle ones there. And I'm leaving out that edge border. And then I'm just going to cut those out. Let's unhide everything, and I'm going to subdivide now because it's going to make it a lot easier to make my selections because I'll see these rounded corners and they're easy to grab. So you've got 40 edges selected, and it's 20 and 20 in case you missed, 20 in there and 20 more there. And then I'll run my bridge tool. And sometimes you'll get a little bit of a mesh error like this happening with the bridge tool. So let's undo, and we'll double check here real quick and see what's going on. I think we may have something the matter with our subdivision surfaces. So let's go by type. We definitely have something funny going on here because these edges should be straight. Let's give this a quick try again. Sometimes it just doesn't work once, but will work the next time through. So let's try it again here. No, and it's still giving us a problem here. Now, you may see something like this happen, so we'll investigate what has gone wrong here. And you can see we're getting some kind of weird problem through here. So what I'm going to do to kind of help Modo out is I'll end up doing this anyway. So I'm going to just run a loop slice through, and you can see as I do these loop slices that there is definitely something going on here, and we've got something wrong with the mesh here. So I'm going to go ahead and run cleanup script because there's something definitely off here. So, oops, and of course they're not there. Let's find my cleanup script. There it is. So I'm going to run mesh cleanup, and you can see it snapped that in there. I think what I did is I actually ran the bridge tool twice on accident in that section, so it doubled up my geometry, and you could see by the pull on there how we were getting that that really wonky edge right here in this same one, all the way around. It was just getting really kind of distorted. Something like that is usually the telltale sign that that there's something wrong with the mesh, and a lot of times duplicate geometry can really be the culprit. So let's select all those again. Click, and now we should have this just about how we want it. And since we've left this border edge of polygons here, you can see it's getting stretched, but it isn't pulling at all on my surfaces here. So if I go to my shade here, let me turn my wireframe off in this view. You can see that that's working really, really nicely. Okay, so now we're ready to move on to the underside of this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select the middle section here. Shift up arrow twice, and actually I need to be out of sub-D mode. So instead of making that selection again, I'm just going to move to vertices mode, and then tab back here, and that will allow me to see my vertices, or excuse me, see this in sub-D mode without having to make that selection again. So I'm going to turn on group polys, the bevel tool, and then I'm just going to click and again go right to my scale tool, and I'll pull in, aiming again for the middle of those two sections in between the outer and the inner. Let's see, I may have to zoom in a little closer here to get this a little bit more accurate, but by the time we subdivide this, it's going to be relatively clean. So I'm liking that. I think that works. Okay, and now I'm going to bevel again, and we know we bevel up 1.7 millimeters. That's going to align with the inside section here. And then I'm going to drop my tool, and I'm going to hit shift down arrow. So that's going to deselect that little border edge that we actually want to keep there. I'm going to cut this all out. I know I'm going to need loops, a couple of loop slices through here and through here just from the previous ones. So let's go ahead and add those before we do anything else. And we'll hit the tab key. We'll see that these edges are nice and sharp, and we've got a perfect place for this to bridge from here to there. And we should still see that we have 40 edges. You can see we still have 40 edges selected, which is exactly what we want. And we'll run the bridge tool, click, and we're good to go. Now sometimes when you do this, depending on how the edges were selected, you'll see something that looks like this, and don't freak out. You don't have to go and rebuild your bridge by hand, build it in several sections, and then bridge the bridges together. You don't have to do anything like that. Usually something like this, when you see the outer rim and the inner rim with kind of some pinching going on, usually it's just that the direction has been reversed. So just click reverse direction and you should be set and ready to go. All right, so we need to actually build in one more thing here. So, and that's the middle section. It's a little peg that runs down the middle here. So I'm going to set my count to 2 and run uniform loop slices down the middle here. And then I'm going to drop my tool, and that's going to give me an area that I can work with. I don't need this much space, but I kind of want to get extra space. So now if I take this whole section, you can see that, let's go back into sub-D mode. You can see that it still is just going up to the border around there. And this is going to be what I'm going to select when or what I'm going to bridge to when I put this piece in. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to cut that out right now. It's going to look really kind of weird until we get everything in place, but we can check and see I've got 16 edges here. So that's going to be how many edges I want to create for the peg that goes down the middle here. And what I need to do here is we're going to go out of sub-D mode. I want to see really well the area that this peg needs to go into. So I'll go into the top view here, and I'm going to start creating this peg. I can go ahead and just set my sides to the correct amount here. Go to 16, and segments I don't need any more than just the one. I'll be adding in some loop slices, but that will be enough. The idea behind this piece here is that it should land right between these. So, and then I can eyeball it based off of where these are geometrically, and then we look, and remember we were having that magic number of 0.8 millimeters. You can see over here on the left hand side that we were close to 1.6. So I just took both the X and the Z to 1.6, and that is going to pretty much give me exactly what I want. And for my Y position, I'm going to enter in 1.7 millimeters because I want this to line up with the inside here. Oops. So let's check this out, and we see we've got this right there. It's facing the wrong way at the moment, but that's totally fine. So let's go ahead and drop our tool, and we'll go to polygon mode. I'm just going to get where we can see that guy. There it is. We'll flip it so it's going the right direction. And I'm going to double click on this edge. This edge, we should see 32 because it was 16. And now we have 16 by 2. Go to edge, bridge, and click. Now we notice we've got this little bit of an error again, which is not really a problem because I can just take this and rotate it. It's actually going to be 12 degrees now because I've got 16 sides. If you do the math, that'll get you the right amount. Looking for 180 degrees, so that'll work. Put it at 12 degrees and we should be set. I'm going to drop my tool, move my selection up, make sure that I get the right color on all of these, and hit the tab key. I'm ready to keep going here. So I'm going to bevel this one, and I'm going to pull it straight down 1.7 millimeters, and then I'm going to pull in just 100 like I had done on the top face ones, and then we'll just run a couple of loop slices around there, and we're set and ready to go. Now there are actually two varieties of these pieces. The ones that are a solid color actually have a hole in the middle of this. Actually, I look like I'm a loop slice short here, so let me add that in while I talk about this. The ones that are a solid color have a hole in the middle, and the ones that are transparent, this is a solid piece, and it doesn't have a hole down the middle of the peg. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this one, save it as a preset, and then I'll add in that hole in the middle and save that as a preset. First, I'm going to take this over really quickly into my unshade or my unwireframe view just to get a general look at it. And overall, everything's looking pretty good. So I'd say we're ready to go on this one. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to right-click on this, Actually, here, let's make sure I've got the right material on everything. Yep, okay. I'll make sure that this is what's going all on there. So, excuse me, rather, this one. So let's just hit M, make sure that everything's the same. And then one other thing, sorry, I take it back, there's always one other thing. I need to double check my UV map, because if I have this UV map and I've added on things, they're going to fall into the UV space. And I really don't want that logo, again, to be anywhere other than here and here. So let's go to our UV maps, the logo bump, and looks like the logo bump has been untouched, so we're good. What you might want to do, just as a matter of housekeeping, is just delete the extra UV map, just to keep things nice and tidy. And we'll have this one right. So let's go over to item mode, right click on this, excuse me, wrong place, file, save item preset, and I want to go into where my LXLs are, which is in my meshes. So I'll call this 1_2 dot, oops, LXL, and save. Now if I click over here to layout, you see that I've got this. If this comes out wrong, you can replace the image with a file. This is one of those things that sometimes will update and sometimes won't. I think what we might end up doing here is, you know, since right now I'm in this scene that has the decent lighting, I can just render this and save it as a preset. I won't do that here on file, just because there's no need to record a video of doing that, since we've already looked at that. But that would be what you'd do. Same thing here. You can see right click and say replace icon with image file. Yeah, that's how we do it. So there's that piece. In the next video, we'll go looking at some more pieces. There's a lot to go through, so have a nice break. See you in the next video.